Let me see who's in here today. Let's see here. I see Alfred Kitchen and Claudia and Comisha Williams, Edmund Gillis, Eric Travis, Errol. Good to see you, Errol. Let's see, Helen Weaver, Henderson. Errol is out of Pompano Beach. Let's see, Henderson Goins, RP. Good morning to you. He says, "Good morning, OG." Am I an OG? I guess I am, huh? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'll take that as a compliment. Nellie Moore, good to see you. Shauna, good to see you. I see Shauna's in here. Shauna is in the chat. I'm the young kind of OG. Okay. Well, I'll take that too. You got to work hard to stay young. I was in the gym at 6 o'clock this morning, and it's great. If you ever want to really feel good and start your day off positive, just go to the gym in the morning. It's a great feeling. So, so anyway, hey, how you doing, Eric Travis? Good to see you. All right, so. What I want to share with you, Claudia from London. Good to see you out of London. Hold on, give me a second. Let me clear my throat. Sorry, guys. One thing I wanted to share with you guys is that as of next week, the Zoom link for our class sessions is going to change. So you may be able to log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com, theblackstockmarketprogram.com, and there will be a different link. And right now, if you want to grab a copy of our financial flashcards for kids, you can go to financialflashcards.com. That's financialflashcards.com and pick up a copy, and you can get a discount right now. We have credit and real estate flashcards. So those are two things if you want to teach your kids about the rules of credit, which is really important. Keeping a good credit score will help you as an investor. And also real estate. If you understand real estate at an early age, there is a clear connection between where you end up financially long-term as a result of that. And also, in case you don't know, we're also doing a stock options event tomorrow. Well, sorry, let me think. Thursday night at 8 o'clock. So if you go to drboyceprime101.com, drboyceprime101.com, you can join us for that event. Now, if you are a Prime member, though, you get in for free. So the Prime members, don't worry about joining, but it's up to you. All right, so let me hop right in. And first of all, let me talk to you guys about something that I just saw that I think is a great economic lesson in terms of understanding wealth. Donald Trump, it's so interesting. Now, again, I don't know how you feel about Trump. Some of you, I've talked to a lot of you. Some of you can't stand the man. Some of you love him. Some of you don't care. And I don't care if you don't care. I don't care if you love him. I don't care if you hate him. It's totally fine. I think you have a right to express yourself in whatever way you feel is appropriate. You're not going to get any sort of shaming, political shaming from me. I don't do that. But what I do is I try to look for economic lessons that we can learn that will help us understand how this wealth game works. I really think that that various forms of financial literacy show themselves in looking at the real world and really understanding, certain groups and people that have more money than the rest of us do, and say, well, how did that happen? How did they get that? How do we reverse engineer that? In fact, I would argue, give me 1 second. I'm choking a little bit. Okay, maybe I'll choke less now that I've had some water. Some would say that if you're looking for financial peace, but you don't embrace financial literacy, that's like saying I want my stomach to be full, but I don't want to eat any food. Right? I don't want to take in any food, but I want to be full. Well, you can't be full if you don't eat. Right. So when you think about what it means to be financially full, you have to ask yourself, what am I eating? Am I eating a consistent dose of financial literacy? Or am I just starving myself? Well, if you starve yourself, then you're never going to be full. You're going to be empty. So if you find yourself empty when it comes to where you are financially, you got to ask yourself, what am I eating? Right. So one lesson I wanted to share with you all that came to mind today, I read the financial news all the time to just understand the world better. And I was reading this story about Donald Trump, and I was really, really shocked to find out that Trump's wealth has actually gone up during all his trials and everything else. And he's on trial right now for everything. I mean, it's just, they're kind of throwing the book at him. I don't, is it because they don't want him to run, or is it because he's really a crook? Probably all of the above, right? I think Trump, if you look at his background, he is a very questionable, complex, potentially sketchy, even shady background. And this has been true for a very long time, even before he got into politics. He did a lot of real estate business at a time where you could really do a lot of major real estate projects in New York without dealing with the mafia and things like that. And then when you go to Vegas and Atlantic City, stuff like that, you're dealing with the mob and the Russian mob and everything else. He's been doing that for a long time. But what was fascinating was when I saw that they said that his wealth had gone up by about $500 million. And and this is where the politics get kind of silly. There are people that have been consistently saying, well, he's not really rich, he's just pretending and stuff like that. No, according to Bloomberg, he's really wealthy. The Bloomberg Billionaires Index, and I don't think Michael Bloomberg is a political ally of Trump. I think Michael Bloomberg is actually more on the liberal side of things. And so the Bloomberg Billionaires Index puts him at about $4.1 billion. And it says that his wealth has gone up by $500 million since he started his trial. And, and so what's really crazy is that in addition to his wealth going up since he's been on trial, his political power has gone up. He's actually, if they had an election right now, the polls show that he would actually win the election. So the only way it seems that they could actually stop him from winning right now would be to keep him from technically running, right? And so one of the things I wanted to share with you on that as well, not just because I thought the fact was just really fascinating, but there is such a thing as economic warfare. And in this society, money is power. And also, not only is money power, but also support and confidence plays a big role in whether or not a business can exist. So part of the reason that Trump's businesses are doing well is because there are still banks and people that have money that believe in his business. When people stop believing in your business or stop believing in your bank, that deteriorates the economic value of your business and your bank, right? So effectively, with Trump, it was interesting. I was reading the statements from his family, and every statement that they made about the business is, everything's fantastic. We're in the best position ever. Our debt is paid down. We have plenty of cash, right? It's fantastic. It's great. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Never been better. Well, that language tends to come out because really, as a business owner, he has to exude that confidence, because confidence and people's belief in your business will affect the economic value of that business. It does. And it's also part of the reason that Black businesses have trouble getting established or maintaining themselves, because a lot of people don't have a lot of faith and belief in Black businesses. There was a whole debate happening this week about a restaurant reviewer who reviewed some Black-owned businesses, and that led to this whole conversation about Black businesses all having terrible customer service and stuff like that, which is just simply not true. In the Black Business School, for example, we take tremendous pride in our customer service. I got a customer service person that's right here in the chat right now answering questions to make sure that you're happy, right? So we put customer service way up here. But what happens is you get a lot of racial profiling of Black-owned businesses, which deteriorates the confidence, which therefore deteriorates the access to capital, because people don't invest in or buy things from entities that they don't believe in. So the reason that you hear Trump going on TV and saying businesses are great, better than ever, it's amazing, is because he's trying to maintain the confidence that, because if he had a problem, he wouldn't tell you. He wouldn't tell anybody. Because then if he did become public, or he became toxic due to a lack of public confidence, then guess what? The banks start withdrawing their money. Elon Musk revealed this when he talked about a plea deal he made with the feds. He made a plea deal with the SEC. And they said, well, if you didn't do anything wrong, why would you sign the plea deal? Well, he signed the plea deal for the same reason that every Black man who's given a plea deal has signed the plea deal. He signed the plea deal because he knew that that if he did not sign the plea deal and they opened up an investigation into his business, that Tesla would have had to declare bankruptcy immediately. And the reason is that an investigation from the SEC would have triggered parts of his contracts with his lenders that basically say, if you have any investigation or there's any sort of toxicity in your image or public confidence, we're going to pull our money out. And when they pull their money out, that's like pulling the rug out from under you. A lot of the major businesses in America that are worth billions of dollars, or people that make billions of dollars, most of them do this with debt. Most of them do this with either debt or equity. Either they've gone to a bank to raise, a lot of money, or they've gone to private investors, private equity, or they've gone to the public capital markets to raise money. All those methods of raising capital come with a huge element of financial psychology. Financial psychology is massive. I wrote my whole dissertation on financial psychology. What you believe in becomes real in the world of economics. That which you do not believe in ceases to exist. It's like when Peter Pan asked Tinkerbell, do fairies exist? She said they exist if you believe in them. If you don't believe in them, then they don't exist anymore. Even the Day of the Dead with there was the whole Encanto. I think that was a movie that Disney made about the Day of the Dead. Maybe I get them mixed up. I'm sorry if I did, but anyway, but when they made the movie about the Day of the Dead, they said that dead people, once they die, their belief is that you remain alive in the afterworld for as long as people remember you. As long as people believe in you, then you exist. If they don't believe in you, then you disappear. So effectively, business is the same way. It's a massive self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, with that being said, and understanding that mindset and belief in what you're doing will affect how successful it is, how much it exists, I want you to then look at the Black community, and I want you to look at the lack of confidence that people have when it comes to Black businesses, right? So banks don't believe in the businesses, so they don't necessarily loan the money, so these businesses can't really grow. A lot of customers don't believe in the business. They're like, I don't know if I want to invest. I don't know if I want to buy anything from, from this Black company, because Black people aren't that good at running businesses. They're good at basketball, they're good at rapping, but they're not really good at being business owners. And so this just little things like that, which is not quite it kind of fits in the category of racism, or it's a type of racism that doesn't get discussed as much. We talk a lot about racism in terms of whether or not somebody likes you. I look at racism in terms of how the systems are designed to either give you opportunity or block your progress. Also, I look at racism in the sense of whether or not you have what you need in order to get where you're trying to get to. Most major billion-dollar companies are built on debt or access to capital from somebody, and that access to capital comes from confidence. Trump could never have been a billionaire if it wasn't for his father and if it wasn't for the banks. Now, you can't change what the banks do, right? That's a longer process, but you can change what you do as a parent. If you have kids, the decisions you make right now, for example, like whether or not you choose to participate in things like the $5 a day investing plan that we've talked about in the Black Business School is totally free. That's going to make a big difference, because what's going to happen is that one day when your child has some idea for a business, they're going to look around and say, okay, where am I going to get the money to do this thing? And whether or not they have to go beg for that money and get rejected by the world, or whether or not they can go into an asset base and get that money, is going to be totally up to you. In fact, I have this podcast on Spotify. If you guys want to go check it out, it's called How to Make Money Without Working, right? That's been kind of the thing I've been talking a lot about. And I do a whole training on it, which you guys may have seen. And I'm fascinated with this idea, because I think one thing that I figured out, I knew this, but it's like you know it, but then it's like it just kind of pieces together. And I said, okay, I get it now. I think that the number one thing that any parent or any individual in this community can do, if you want yourself or your family or your kids to have access to consistent income, cash flow, whatever, is to focus extensively on this concept of a capital base. And all a capital base is it's a collection of resources that allow you to have what you need, right? A capital base could be a farmer who has 20 horses, and he can use those horses to carry stuff and make money and rent the horses or whatever. It could be a bunch of apple trees. You can grab an apple and eat an apple whenever you get hungry. It could be a capital base. Also can be a collection of stocks. A lot of you that are in the Prime program, for example, drboyceprime.com, if you want to see what we're doing, you know that we talk extensively about building your capital base, because I know one of the questions, for example, and I'll just go ahead and start jumping into your questions, but one of the questions one of you left is, Dr. Boyce, I want to make an extra $3,000 a month with stock options. Well, it's pretty straightforward. You could actually buy maybe $10,000 or $12,000 worth of a stock like Affirm, and sell the call options every week on the firm, and you would make, that $3,000 a month. Well, what does that mean though? Why would suddenly your income go up because you own this stock? Well, that's because your stock is your capital base. Do you understand? And so having the capital base, but then understanding the methods to maximize what you can pull out of the capital base, that's the game of finance in a nutshell. That's what finance is, people. That's what it is. It's if you look up finance and economics from a foundational level, it is the efficient allocation of resources. It is a one rule of capital is that capital must always be put to its best available use. All that's really saying is that the game of capitalism is building a capital base and then knowing how to get the most out of that capital base. Right? What separates rich people from poor people? Well, rich people have a capital base. What does that mean? Well, that means they have stuff. They have things that they can get income from. They have houses. They have stocks. They have crypto. They have skill sets. They have relationships. They have businesses, right? Do you understand, right? So if you have none of these things, or if you have a child and you put your child in the world, in a world based on powernomics, and you don't give them any of those things, your child ain't got no business, they have no stocks, they have no real estate, they have no skill, they have no relationships, well, then they have no capital base. Then they're in big trouble, because the only capital base they have is the capital base that was inherited by the ultimate father, which might be God, right? If you're religious that way. I don't go to church, but I do believe in God. Well, what's God's capital base? Well, hard work, labor, right? If you don't have any skill, what do? You just work your butt off and you hope someone pays you for that. And then you have your body, like you go start an OnlyFans account or something, right? That's pretty much the only capital base you're inherently given. But sometimes that requires you to sell something that money should not be able to buy, right? So effectively, I would encourage you to drill into those two core ideas. What does the capital base look like, and how do I build one? It takes time to build one. This is why when people talk about fast money stuff or ways to make money really fast, or I have $5,000, I'm going to flip it into 10,000 in 3 months and all that other stuff, that stuff usually doesn't work, and it's usually a big lie. In fact, if you look at most of the right now, unfortunately, one unfortunate side of the economic culture that's been developing is that you have a lot of people that are going into it that don't understand the core of economics, and they're running Ponzi schemes, right? And they're getting these federal charges, and these crazy things are happening. Like I know the guy at the Breakfast Club, DJ Envy, who I've met Envy, I've been on the Breakfast Club a few times, and he was very nice, but I don't know him like that. But I know that he did something with a guy, and that was that's in big trouble right now, got arrested, Caesar Pena, something like that. Well, what's interesting about that is if you look at the nature of the deals that he was doing, where he was raising these millions of dollars, they were fast money deals. It was like, okay, give me $50,000 and I'll turn it into $100,000 in a year or whatever, right? Or or I'll pay you 70% interest or something, right? And so deals like that tend to be really just bad situations. They're going to lead to very bad outcomes. And so when you're talking about getting that capital base, it's important to get it, but you have to understand the right way to get it and the right way to manage it. And typically the most efficient and effective capital base is one that is built over time. For example, if someone does, we talk in the Black Business School about the $5 a day plan. We're not fast money people, we're slow money people, because I want you to have solid money, sturdy money. So a person that does $5 a day invested in the S&P 500, after 10 years they have about $21,000 or $29,000. After 20 years they have 100,000. After 30 years you have $250,000. But if you move up to where you're investing the same amount that the average American spends on a new car note, so let's say you're able to go from that $5 a day, or which is $150 a month, to $750, which is what people spend on a new car note, then which is a high number. Admittedly, it's a very high number. But think about this: you probably have your rent's probably higher than $750, or your mortgage. You have other things that you might spend hundreds of dollars a month on. So why not consider the capital base to be just as important as paying rent, paying the car note, or paying anything else, right? So, or paying for the cell phone bill, all that stuff, right? So if you're doing $750 a month, which is actually 5 times greater, then instead of 29,000 after 10 years, you have approximately 150,000. So you're rich after less than a decade. 5 to 10 years of commitment and dedication pulls you out of whatever situation you're in to another level. And then after 20 years, you're talking about $500,000. Now you're really rich. After 30 years, you're talking about over $1 million. Now you're just filthy rich, right? And then what happens is that you have the capital base, and then you just, at that point, you have to go to the more important part, which is to preserve the capital, protect the ball, and then you have to think about ways to use the capital efficiently, efficient use of capital, right? So when companies buy other companies, all that is it's capitalism at play. I'm not saying capitalism is always good, because sometimes capitalism is very, very bad, but when it's not terrible, what you see when you see one company buy another, like you saw Microsoft purchase the company that made ChatGPT, OpenAI, right? Or you saw Microsoft purchase Activision, or you saw Amazon purchase MGM. Well, what happened is Amazon said, we want that capital, and we have a more efficient way to use that capital than the people that own it, right? Like, you're not raising your kids properly, I'll adopt your kids. Or you're not treating your woman right, well, let me be her boyfriend, whatever, right? So effectively, Amazon said, let's acquire this capital base, and we're going to generate income off this capital base. But then what happens is that there is a certain degree of skill and efficiency that also comes into play in terms of how you manage the capital base. Just having the capital base is not enough, because if Amazon grabs MGM and they manage it poorly, then the value of MGM starts to decline, right? Whereas, another example would be when I was in Pasadena one time, I met with this guy who was a billionaire. He's a white guy, very nice guy. And as I was sitting in this fancy hotel waiting to sit and talk with him, I was sitting across from another guy who had just met with him. I guess he would just sitting he would just sit in his in the hotel lobby and just have meetings all day. And I guess I was one of his meetings, because he wanted to talk to me about some stuff. And I was sitting across from a guy who I didn't know who he was, and I was like, hey, what do you do? And he said, I created MySpace. Anybody remember MySpace? So this guy was the creator of MySpace. And I said, well, what happened to MySpace? Like, it looked like it was doing really well, and then it just disappeared. And he basically said, Fox bought it and they destroyed it. They wasted it. They just drove it into the ground. And so effectively, this was an example of capital that was acquired that wasn't efficiently managed. And so as a result of that, the value started to deteriorate. And so ultimately, what I want you to do is I want you to really think about your life as if your family is a corporation, or as if your brand, who you are, whatever, not to say that everyone knows who you are. You don't have to be famous to do this, but just think of your family, like value your family, right? You remember, you are the star of a movie called Your Life. You are the star. You're the main character. The whole script was written about you. And I want you to really imagine what that looks like over the next 10, 20 years in terms of the development of a capital base. I want you to think about what that looks like in terms of you being able to, as a family unit, manage that capital property, protect it and grow it, and also extract what you need from it. And I guarantee you, especially if you have little kids or little grandkids, it's very easy for you to have a 10, 15, 20-year plan to make sure your kids will never, ever have to work for anybody for the rest of their life. If you give a child an adequate capital base, they don't have to go to work. They don't have to, because remember, labor is just a form of capital. That's a capital base that you have, that that you use if you don't have anything else to lean on, right? But if your child has stocks and real estate and skill and relationships and business and all these other things, they don't have to go to work for anybody. And in fact, I told our 12-year-old, I said, in this world, one funny thing about life is that for most people, the difference between complete freedom and slavery is about $4,000 or $5,000 a month. So I told her, I said, rather than picking a career, I said, I don't want you to be defined by a career. It sounds like you want to do a lot of things. I want you to do all the things that your heart desires. I said, instead of thinking about a career and letting a career define you, just solve your simple financial problem. How do I make $5,000 a month so I ain't got to go to work? So that I can find out who I am, and by doing what I want to do instead of doing what my boss tells me to do. Because now my boss owns my time. I have to sell something incredibly precious, which is my time, my peace of mind, my labor. I don't have to sell that anymore because I'm actually functionally free. That's extremely important. Because they say money will not, money can't buy your happiness. I agree. Money will never deliver your happiness. Money will not show up at your doorstep and say, here's a box of happiness. Now that you have me, you have happiness too. Money does not do that. What money does is, and what capital does, is it will give you the day off work so you can spend time at home by yourself and find out who you are, and then figure out what makes you happy. That's what money will do. Money will never give you happiness, but money will give you the day off work so you can figure out what makes you happy. Do you understand? I hope that makes sense. So that was on my mind. You guys know how I am. I like to sort of take a lesson of something that I see. I see lessons all the time. And I think that that's something in terms of simplifying what your goal is, what the end game is. And I think the Trump thing was just kind of interesting because also it reflects an aspect of economic warfare. I actually did a training in the Black Business School at some point. It's somewhere out there on the economics of self-defense. And one thing that you have to understand is that your economic strategy is part of your self-defense plan. Everybody talks about, they use words like freedom and, and security and safety and, Black Lives Matter. And I'm scared because I'm Black, the bad thing's going to happen to me. Well, your economic situation is part of what can either make you more secure or make you more vulnerable. And so if you look at the Trump case is kind of an extreme example of that, right? Their number one goal with Donald Trump, whether you like him or not politically, their goal is to take his money. If you kill his money, then you kill his power. Right. So what he's basically saying is, no, I've got plenty of money. We're doing better than ever. And I'm going to be president. Right. That's his position. Right. Their position is, no, we're going to, Letitia, the attorney general in New York, I can't remember her last name, but she's suing and she's like, no, we're going to take away your ability to do business because we know that that's what gives you power. So money is not just power that's used in warfare. It's used it's used to conquer and take over, sort of control other people. Like, for example, the war in the Middle East. None of this stuff happening in Gaza happens without the United States writing a big, $100 billion check that they're writing in Congress right now, right? For whatever reason, the U.S. supports the Israelis and they're writing big checks. If they stop writing checks, then there is no ability to do anything in Gaza, right? But then also in your life, a lot of your life is controlled and managed by the people who pay the bills. And that's, so you're really in danger if you put yourself in a scenario, or your kids in a scenario where their bills are being paid by someone who does not have their best interests at heart. So a lot of what I see is, people think slavery ended. Slavery is not over. Slavery is everywhere. In capitalism's, the whole system's built on slavery, psychological slavery, physical slavery, economic slavery. In fact, the whole pandemic, after the pandemic ended, the problem that they had was they said, people don't want to go to work anymore. How do we make them go to work? Oh, that's right. Let's start making them pay student loans again. Let's deplete their savings, right? let's get them maxed out on credit card debt, and then we're gonna get them. They'll be coming back. They'll be coming back. Let's raise interest rates and slow down the economy so there are fewer jobs available. So they'll start to fight for jobs or whatever, right? That's all these little tactics are built on sort of maintaining and managing people and managing their capital base. A big part of the capitalist capital base is you. It's your consumer dollars, it's your labor, it's your attention. Facebook is able to take your attention and package it up and sell it and make hundreds of billions of dollars a year, right? So really just kind of processing all this and figuring out how you want to be sort of positioned in this, I think is extremely important. Okay. All right. So anyway, let me reach in here. I'm going to answer some of the questions you guys submitted in advance. And And by the way, some of you are asking about my book. Yeah, my book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, and it's available on drboycebooks.com and also at drboycebooks.com. All my books are there. And if you search for the word autograph, you can get autograph copies if you want. I can send you an autograph copy. And we have the financial flashcards for kids. And even my wife, Alicia, who's a therapist, she runs our Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School. Her workbooks are there. She has a great workbook on financial anxiety that you guys may want to take a look at, because financial anxiety, I saw a survey the other day and it said that the majority of Americans are dealing with some sort of financial stress. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that there's uncertainties in the economy. But really, generally speaking, most Americans are not ready for retirement. Most Americans are not positioned to really save or invest properly or really be financially secure. So, and I have a reason to believe that this is kind of by design. I don't think that that's going to ever change. So anyway, if you go to drboycebooks.com, you can go take a look at that. All right. So, what I want to do is I want to reach and find some of your questions you